What's up, guys? Lewin here at Garageband and Beyond. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about how to pan background vocals, backup vocals, so you get the biggest, most stereo spread sound you can. A couple of things to avoid so it's not, overly saturated with effects and stuff. But basically just how to think about it, some of the science that goes behind it. So let's just get right into it. So I'm working on this song for a client. As you know, I mix songs for you guys. And here's something I'm working on right now. And it has a ton of backup vocals on it. So let's just listen to it really quickly just so you hear. It's a nice simple part. Right, so that's them by themselves, and let me just let you hear it in the mix just so you have an idea. Okay, so that should give you an idea. And don't forget, I do play instruments for people's recordings. Those are all my instruments. She sent voice and piano, and I filled everything out. So anyway, so let's talk about panning. So the very first thing I will say is, a lot of people will just like take their lead vocal track and then just duplicate it however many times you need. Like in this case, it'd be whatever, like 10 or 20 different times. So when you do that, one of the big problems is, on my lead vocal, I have a reverb on it. So if I was just to go ahead and duplicate, like you saw, I did do that, but I went in and turned off a lot of the reverb. So when you're doing these kinds of things, understand that the multiple voices don't all need reverbs, okay? That's number one. They don't all need them. I typically go to I sort of do like every other track, or sometimes I even do less than that. But as a rule of thumb, like about half of my backup vocals have reverb on them and the other half don't, because otherwise it just gets overly saturated with reverb. Now the big thing is where to put the controls, right? Left and right. So as you can see here, hopefully, they are sort of, there's a spread. There's a big spread here. It's a little tighter here, even a little more tight there, and then it's back out here. You should also notice that I don't have anything going full hard left and hard right. I don't really like that sound. That doesn't really give you that big stereo sound. It's really better. Like the first thing to realize is negative 35 and plus 35, right? So this is 35 degrees to the left and 35 degrees to the right. Now, when I'm doing these things, one of the things I like to do to make sure it's precise, and it's a lot easier than controlling the wheel. If you just double click on here, it allows you to type in exactly what you want, right? So that's just a nice feature. That's, and one of the things you should definitely do across the board when you're doing this is typing it in, because otherwise you're going to take forever just turning that knob to get it exactly where you want. The whole point is, though, that you do want them to be exactly the same, So if you think of like this part right here, let's hear it. This is just this. And actually I have 4 of these. Right, so those are the 2 big ones that are spreading out. Now, to sort of tighten it up, I have 2 more tracks of the same exact thing. But to keep them so it sounds like a vocal section, you don't want too many things too far away. So that's why I sort of like leave it at that negative 35, plus 35 range, because farther than that away, the people just sound like they're not, the section's just not connected, right? So now here's all 4, and you can see that these 2 below are plus 15, and this is negative 15, right? So now it sounds a little bit more like an actual, people singing in the same room together. Okay, so you already have that big stereo sound from those 2 first tracks, but the next 2 sort of, being a little closer to the middle, tie it all together. Now, as I go down higher, to higher notes especially, now this is another thing for high notes. When you're panning high notes, I typically find that it's better to keep those high notes closer together. The more you spread them out, the more they sound less like a group of people singing, and the more it sounds like an individual in my left ear and an individual in my right ear. And I totally just got that wrong. Anyway, I'll make a video when I learn my left from my right and show you guys the difference. So anyway, the high notes are down here, and let's just listen to them really quick. Okay, so they're nice and tight to the middle. Right? So that, having them nice and close together in the center, will give us that, section sound. But I still want that big stereo sound, so I'm just going to peg them right out. And I put them a little bit past the 35 point, mostly just to help the spread be even a little bit bigger. 5 degrees isn't a huge deal. So this is -40, and that's +40. And all together, the high section sounds like this. Right? Nice and easy. All together, they sound like this. Right? And then with the song, they sound like this one more time. Okay, so big stereo spread vocals. Now, if you have less vocals, right? Here's a case where I just went left and right. This is -35 and +35, and this is just over a verse section. Let me just let you hear this, because this sort of proves the point of -35 +35 is just what you want for panning for just nice basic stereo. Right? So those by themselves are this.
Hear you calling me back to the black and blue.
Okay, simple part. And I believe actually these both do have reverb on them. So, and actually I'm still in the mixing stage of this, so I might actually turn one of these reverbs off or turn it down a little bit. It's a little bit wet. Anyway, but the whole point of this video is how to pan, right? So -35 +35, those are the numbers you want to be looking at for just as your guideline, right? So anywhere around that, not much more past that, 40 is pretty much my maximum, unless I'm doing something, really weird or something. But if I'm looking for big, thick, lush sounding stereo background vocals, this is what I do. Now, as far as compression and all that kind of stuff goes, of course, it's going to have to be a little bit different than the lead vocal, of course, right? The compression that I usually do is a little bit tighter. I'll usually close that threshold down a little bit. Usually leave the ratio about the same place. One last thing that I like to do to the vocals, just to sort of help clean up the muddiness of it all, is to just shave off as much of the low end as I can that's unnecessary. And a lot of times, there's not even a lot of stuff happening, especially in a female vocal. But like this, let's just look at it. So you can see that I've, used the high pass filter and brought it up pretty high in reality. But, I was just trying to shave off all the fat from the tone in case there was, cars driving by, people stepping or whatever. It's a nice way to get rid of some of the junk. So she's coming in right around here, right? So around this 280, 310 range, and that just, it's just to help get rid of some of that low end. As everything starts getting stacked, that low end compounds and becomes, just obnoxious. So one of the things you can do to get rid of that is just this, use that high pass filter and shave off all the low end. And, but be mathematical about when you're setting the pan controls left and right. Really do take your time to type in, because it's easier, -35 +35, -10 +10, whatever the numbers you are using. Type them in, but make sure left and right is mathematically, numerically the same thing. You're trying to, you're dealing with physics, you're dealing with acoustics here. So being a little bit scientific about it is definitely going to help your results just become bigger and cleaner. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'm always answering as fast as I can, and Facebook page, all that kind of stuff, Twitter, all that stuff. Fully appreciate your support, you guys. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. All right, later.